You didn't fall in love. That's what makes this so hard to accept. Because if it was just love, then why did you slowly disappear inside it? Why did you start questioning yourself, your reactions, your feelings, your sanity? That doesn't happen in love. It happens in something else. Something that looks like love but slowly reshapes you without you noticing. And the worst part is, it doesn't start wrong. It starts right. Almost too right. Too intense. Too present. Too consistent. Like they saw you, really saw you. Understood you, connected with you. Faster than anyone ever did. And that's exactly what made you stay, because it felt rare, special, different. But let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why it felt so strong, so fast? Why everything moved so quickly? Why you felt so attached before you even had time to think? That wasn't coincidence, that was conditioning. And you don't see it while it's happening because it doesn't feel like control. It feels like connection. You start adapting, not because you're forced, but because you want to keep that feeling, that closeness, that intensity. So you adjust small things, your tone, your reactions, your timing. Nothing big at first, just small adjustments. So small you don't even question them. Until one day you realize you're not acting like yourself anymore. You're acting like the version of you that works better for them, and that's where everything shifts. But here's the part no one talks about. You don't feel controlled, you feel chosen, and that's what keeps you there. Because being chosen feels powerful. Until you realize you were only being chosen as long as you stayed exactly how they needed. And the moment you step out of that, everything changes. The energy, the attention, the way they respond to you. Suddenly, you're too much, too emotional, too difficult. And now you're confused because just a while ago you were perfect. So what changed you or the dynamic? And this is where most people get stuck, because instead of questioning them, you start questioning yourself. What did I do wrong? Why am I like this? Why can't I just go back to how things were? And without realizing, you start trying to earn something that was never stable to begin with. And that's the trap, because now you're not in love anymore. You're in a cycle, trying to get back to a version of something that was never real. You didn't notice it all at once. It wasn't a moment. It was a pattern, small, repeated, quiet. And that's exactly why you stayed, because nothing felt big enough to leave. At first, it doesn't feel like pain. It feels like confusion. You say something simple, calm, clear, and somehow the conversation turns. You leave feeling wrong, feeling guilty, feeling like you exaggerated. So you replay it again and again, trying to understand how did it turn into this, because you didn't attack, you didn't accuse, you just spoke, and still you became the problem. And when that happens enough times, something inside you shifts. You don't stop feeling, but you start expressing less. Not because you don't have something to say, but because it becomes exhausting and always be misunderstood. So you choose silence. At first, it feels like peace, but it's not. It's suppression. And that's when you start losing yourself without realizing. Because now you're not being yourself anymore. You're being the version of you that doesn't create problems. And here's the part that hurts. You start shrinking to keep the relationship stable. You explain less, you question less. You hold things in, you try to feel less. But emotions don't disappear. They accumulate, and eventually they come out in ways you don't recognize. You get irritated faster, you feel overwhelmed. Your reactions feel bigger than they should be. And then comes the moment that messes with your head. They look at you and say, "You've changed." And for a second, you believe it, because technically you did change, but not for the reason they're implying. You didn't change because you're unstable. You changed because you were adapting to something that was slowly draining you. And no one sees that. Not from the outside, not even you. At first, because from the outside, nothing looks broken. No screaming, no chaos, no obvious reason to leave. Just a dynamic where one person adjusts and the other one never has to. And that's where people get stuck because it doesn't look bad enough, but it feels heavy, confusing, unfair. So you tell yourself every relationship has problems. No one is perfect. I just need to be more patient, more understanding. And without realizing, you take responsibility for things that were never yours. Their reactions, their distance, their lack of effort. You start asking, what can I do better, instead of asking, why am I the only one trying? And that question never fully comes. Because if it does, everything changes, so you avoid it. Then comes the exhaustion. Not loud, not dramatic, just constant. You wake up tired. Conversations drain you. You overthink everything, even the smallest things, because nothing feels safe anymore. Not your words, not your feelings, not even your perception. And that's when the disconnection begins. Not from them, from yourself. You stop trusting what you feel. You start second-guessing your own reality. And that's dangerous because once you stop trusting yourself, you can be convinced of anything, even that this is love. But if you're honest, there were moments when you felt it clearly, that discomfort, that weight, that voice inside you saying, this isn't right. But you ignored it because leaving would mean accepting something you weren't ready to face, that it wasn't mutual. And the realization feels heavier than staying. So you stay, not because you didn't see, but because seeing meant letting go of everything you believed you were building. And that's a trap. It's not blindness, it's investment. The more you invest, the harder it becomes to walk away. So you keep trying, fixing, explaining, giving, hoping, waiting for something that never existed the way you thought. And if nothing had forced distance, you would probably still be there, trying harder, giving more, losing yourself piece by piece. And now, when you look back, it's not just about what they did, it's about what it turned you into. And that is what hurts the most, because you see how much of yourself you had to give up just to keep something alive that was never being carried by two people. And this is where everything changes, not outside, inside you. Because once you see it, you can't go back. Not to the same excuses, not to the same silence, not to the same version of yourself that kept accepting less. And at first, that clarity doesn't feel good. It feels heavy, almost like grief, because you're not just losing a person. You're losing the story, the future, the version of life you believed you were building. And that hurts more than anything they did. Because now you're forced to face something deeper. It wasn't mutual, it was sustained by you. And that realization breaks something, but not in the way you think. It doesn't break your ability to love. It breaks the illusion that you had to earn it, that you had to fight for it, that you had to prove yourself to be chosen. Because real love doesn't require that. And deep down, you always knew. There was a part of you quiet, almost ignored, that kept whispering, this isn't right, this isn't enough, this isn't love. But you stayed because hope is louder than truth when you're not ready to let go. And now you don't have that option anymore. Because once you see everything, the patterns, the imbalance, the way you kept showing up for something that was never showing up for you the same way. And here's the shift, the real one. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And you start asking, why did I stay? When I felt it wasn't right. And that question is uncomfortable, but it's powerful. Because now it's not about them anymore. It's about you, your limits, your patterns, your silence, the moments you abandoned yourself to keep someone else. And this is where everything starts rebuilding, not the relationship. Because for the first time, you're not trying to fix something outside. You're looking inward and understanding that you don't need to be chosen by someone who only stays when it's easy, when it's convenient, when it benefits them. You start seeing that what you were giving was real, but it was given in the wrong place. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. And awareness changes everything because now you don't chase the same dynamic. You don't accept the same silence. You don't ignore the same signs. Not again. And maybe the hardest part is accepting this. They didn't lose you the way you lost them because you lost an illusion. And they lost someone who gave everything, and that's not the same. Not even close. So no, you were not too much. You were just too much for someone who was never enough for you. And when that finally clicks, something shifts permanently. You stop shrinking. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to be understood by someone who never tried to understand you. And for the first time, you choose yourself. Not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. And the kind of clarity is quiet but powerful. Because now you don't need closure. You don't need answers. You don't need them to validate what you felt. You already know, and that is freedom. So if any part of this felt familiar, if something here made you stop even for a second, then I want you to be honest with yourself. Not with me, not with anyone else with you. What did you ignore that you can't ignore anymore? And more importantly, what are you still tolerating that you know you shouldn't? Because awareness without action keeps you in the same place. And if you made it this far, you're not the same person who was at the beginning of this video. Something shifted, even if it was small, and that's where it starts. So tell me, what was the moment you realized something wasn't right? I read every single comment. And if this gave you clarity, even a little, make sure you stay, because there's more that you still don't see. And once you do, you don't go back. Not to them, not to that version of you ever again.